Welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho, and thanks for tuning in. We're starting things out looking at the sun. Lots of stuff to cover today. Let's blast through it. Hopefully the sun doesn't blast through you. Here's 304 angstroms. It's 48 hours worth of data from the SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Located at Lagrange point 1 between the Earth and the Sun, the SDO follows a figure-8 pattern over parts of the Pacific Ocean and parts of the US and Mexico in order to give us constant images of the local yellow dwarf. Active region rising in the southeast is indeed a sunspot. We can already see umbrae. It's pretty decent size. It's cycle 25, and it'll be named today. I believe it's 2767. And it is definitely a sunspot, and it's not going away anytime soon. Next, we can see the aftermath of the coronal mass ejection that I forecasted 2 days ago and explained the Earth-facing properties of yesterday. You can see just right at the beginning, you can see kind of the tail end there. And this is from stereo A, located behind the Earth orbitally speaking, but able to see space weather first, hence being referred to as stereo A. At Lagrange point 5. Now going back to between Earth and Sun, we can see a large component of that coronal mass ejection is directly Earth facing. As you can see, some ejecta heading out this way, as well as a halo up here, an indication that some aspect of the coronal mass ejection is headed directly toward the observer. Here's a vision from C3, located in the same spot, Lagrange point 1, between the Earth and the Sun. And you can barely see the coronal mass ejection because it's that Earth-facing. It's almost directly Earth-facing. So we're expecting somewhat of a hit, and NASA and NOAA now agrees. Next, we're going to look at the fields here. And I'm going to zoom in on this so you can just see how significant these fields are. And we can already see umbrae there. And that is undoubtedly cycle 25 behavior. Here's the fade to 304 angstroms, and you can see the filaments associated with that rising region in the southeast. And thanks for leaving a comment, Be Stoic. Is that a forecast for an X-class flare on the 24th? I don't think it's going to be an X-class flare, but we'll definitely cover it if it is a thing. Next, we're going to look at some custom movies here of that rising sunspot. And we do see a little bit of X-ray flaring coming out of it. Let's head back to the chat here for a quick moment. I don't remember any contest. And moving on to the 171 angstroms view of the exact same region. So a little bit of, you can see actually the small bit of X-ray flaring that happened in the video. Right, I guess in the middle of this is a 1 day. It's actually a little more visible in the 304 angstroms. You can see right there, there's a little bit of a brightening of that active region there. It wasn't a B-class flare, it was just in the high A range, a little tiny spike on the X-ray, on the GOES X-ray flux graph. 10.7 centimeter radio flux, which by the way is a measure of sunspot activity quite proportional to daily sunspot number, monthly sunspot number, etc. 69 solar flux units. And there's the graph of the time around the solar minimum that we're just pulling out of now, approaching that 70 line for the monthly values, as we've been at 68 or 69 for quite a long time. The KP index, a measurement of the overall geomagnetism on Earth, has been pegged at 1 for well over 24 hours. And there's that little tiny flare Not quite a B class. I do expect to see some flaring out of that sunspot as it's big. And it's probably going to happen today. You'll probably see, I'll forecast some B class flaring in the next 24 hours. We'll see if I'm right. Could be even bigger. And it has to do with the orientation of where those magnetic, quote, flux ropes, end quote, are located. And I've just lost graphics. What have I done? What have I done? Okay, let's go back to these images. I apologize. This is the danger of streaming live. Here are the images of that sunspot rising, 2767, I believe it is. There's 304 angstroms, 1 day's worth. Here's 171 angstroms, 1 day's worth. Let that play through, and then we'll show you the graphs real quick before we move on. Again, it's lots of stuff to cover today. Don't forget to tune into our flat smash lights section. For your friends and foes who aren't interested in space weather, show them the daily smash lights section, where we talk about anything. Anyway, there's a radio flux. And look for this Enlil spiral to be changed throughout the day today to reflect the coronal mass ejection as we approach the 70 line there, coming out of the current solar minimum, which, by the way, isn't as deep of a solar minimum as the last one, occurring around 2008, 2009. KP index pegged at 1 for the past 24 hours plus. There's that small X-ray flare, making it up into the high A range. I'm expecting some B-class flaring, maybe even some C-class flaring. No significant changes in the proton flux and no surprises there. Perhaps we'll get a little blip in this as a result of the coronal mass ejection on the 24th, perhaps. And next, move into the real-time solar wind. Phi angle currently at about 162 degrees. Solar wind density 2.9 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind density, did I say speed? I apologize, I'm a little disheveled. Solar wind density 2.9 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed 330 kilometers a second. Very low diffuse solar wind conditions here, like solar minimum. And here's 4 hours of pressure on the geospace. This is a model based on the space weather modeling framework. It's 4 hours of data courtesy of University of Michigan. And we don't see a lot of pressure there induced by solar wind. No real surprises there with such a diffuse solar wind and not a whole lot of extracurricular magnetic activity, shall we say. And here are the ground magnetic perturbations. And we see some magnetic activity here over the Canadian North Pole. Less so over the Siberian North Pole. Yes, there are 2 North Poles right now, folks. The net North Pole is somewhere here east of Greenland. We've got information about the South Atlantic anomaly coming too during this geomagnetic excursion, while the South Geomagnetic Pole has crept into the Southern Indian Ocean. If you weren't aware, it's well documented. Look up the geospace models. And welcome to another edition of Smash Lights, part of the smAsho stream, where we talk about whatever we want, no matter how spooky it gets. And it could get very scary. Very, very scary and very spooky. Let's talk about how scary and spooky it could get. Have you noticed America's been sucking lately? Are you not located in America? Do you think the whole world has been sucking lately? Could it be because of Covidiots? Could it be because of a U.S. election? I'm not sure what it's because of, but it's really been sucking lately. So we would urge you all to please Mansa. In other words, make America not suck again. Or, if you're not located in the U.S., Mensa, make Earth not suck again. It's up to you. It's everybody's responsibility to make the planet not suck. I don't know why I have to say this, but apparently it's something that people should probably learn to understand. One of the things you may do to make America not suck again is to watch quality movies such as The Devil's Reign, featuring Ernest Borgnine as a failing demonic insurance agent on a scavenger hunt for his Book of Souls. If you haven't seen The Devil's Reign, it's free on Amazon Prime. We've got other movie recommendations, so please leave yours there, as we've been inviting all kinds of folks to come over and leave us their movie recommendations. We've got some others in there also. As the list grows, we're only putting in ones that we watch typically. And we've got all kinds of other things on the forum as well. Check it out, smAshomash.com/forum. We're just about to reach 1,300 registered users. Will you be the 1,300th as we approach 20,000 views? Quite successful indeed is smAshomash.com/forum, and we're impressed. One of the forums there is about Göbekli Tepe. It's part of the Earth and Geophysics Forum. Göbekli Tepe, the oldest known monolithic site, megalithic site, we'll say. And I've just recently put a post here, and thanks Kimberly for putting stuff. And here's what I wonder. Why was it that the ancients believed life came from Deneb in the sky world, lives here on Earth, and then returns to Deneb in the sky world? Tales of the Stork Delivering Babies is a reference to the swan/Cygnus. Deneb is the hind end where eggs or life originates. Don't you find that kind of interesting? This, I believe, is the bridge between astronomy and what the ancients saw and the monoliths they built. I think I know why, do you? Does anybody? It's epic, it's important, it's related to climate change, and it has been affecting everybody for our entire lives. It's massive X-ray binary Cygnus X3. Now this here is the Wolf-Rayet star, which is a star so big that if it were in our solar system, it would be about the size of Mars's orbit. It's also about 10 times hotter, brighter, and has about 10 times more output in terms of its stellar wind than the Sun does. But the oddest part of all is that it's being orbited by this object right here, known as its little friend. Cygnus X3 has 2 jets. So this binary, high-mass X-ray binary system has this object orbiting this Wolf-Rayet star once every approximately 4.8 hours. Meanwhile, this jet right here is aimed right at your living room, and this jet is aimed away from you. Why is that relevant? Because Cygnus X3 is one of the only, if not the only, known source of cosmic ray flux. We've got a whole entire thread about Cygnus X3, massive X-ray binary, and celestial pole star at the other end of the precessional cycle, Cygnus X3. So if you'd like to read about that, it's in the Cosmology Forum, again at smAshomash.com/forum. Make America not suck again by learning stuff that most people don't know. If you want to follow the X-ray transients of X3, just head to the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory and hit Control F and type SIG-X3. You'll find this page, and it's sunk back into a quiescent state again, folks. So we're not expecting to see any big increases in cosmic rays, at least not from Cygnus X3, otherwise known as Deneb, the tail of the swan, the object at which the ancients appeared to be aiming all of their megalithic sites. And it's apparently not very well understood among astronomers, paleoarchaeologists, etc. And we're trying to raise the awareness of it, while people meanwhile freak out and they go, oh my God, and I go, for you can, because your immune system's likely to do the same thing. Your ancestors survived some really serious cataclysms. You're likely to survive this one. Let's talk about some scary, spooky stuff. Oh my God, why bars are hotspots for COVID-19 transmission. This article from USA Today, propaganda source. USAtoday.com, social distancing is forgotten at bars. While people drink wheat beers out of these lovely Pilsner glasses, this guy here has COVID. And when they clink their glasses together, oh my God, everybody else is going to have COVID. Oh my God, it's freaking me out. I'm shaking in my boots. Here's an animation of what it's like when people have a conversation with less than 6 feet between them. Oh my God, look at that. It causes atmospheric perturbations. It looks like the solar wind, and I'm freaked out. In a poorly ventilated bar, COVID-19 virus can accumulate. Like if you have a bar full of sick people and they keep coughing and there's no ventilation, and here's a simulation of what could happen. An adult breathes 12 to 15 times per minute, exhaling about 10 liters of air per minute. Congratulations, folks. You've become a disease vector. You are a human walking hazmat. Isn't that special? It's a joke, and it's utterly ridiculous. And COVID wasn't scary on January 23rd when we started covering it at smAshomash.com/forum in the free-for-all section, and it's not scary now. Chances are your immune system will smack this thing like the little China virus, cheap Chinese plastic virus that it is. Let's say 100 people are in a bar, and they're emitting this much, in only 1 hour, 600 liters of air, which means 10 tons and tons of COVID viruses could be spewing out of every orifice simultaneously. If you're planning on doing a bareback fart in the bar, please refrain, as you could be farting COVID onto everybody. For illustration purposes, it's equivalent to 40% of the entire room in the air and air in the room, and oh my God, it's sucking the air out of the room and sucking the life out of everybody, sucking the life out of the economy and sucking the brain out of people. Check it out. Oh my God, 200,000 per hour equals 600,000 viruses in 3 hours, enough to infect possibly the entire universe. 4,000 viruses per cubic centimeter. Even limited airflow will move viruses around. People moving along with the rising heat generated from their bodies will mix exhaled viruses in the room. Are you scared? Now, I would be more than happy. I think I'm going to make a second shirt after the first one that says, please cough on me. Life is dangerous, comma, please cough on me, or something like that. Leaning in to hear increases COVID. Would you like COVID breathed into your ear? Then lean in when somebody with COVID speaks. Suggesting that wearing a mask for healthy people accomplishes anything, as there's practically no viral load for them to exhale in the first place. Laughing and singing in loud voices expel more droplets. Oh my God. Make sure you don't laugh or sing or do anything without wearing a mask, because it's completely effective, because some people who know nothing about infectious disease claim it is. Look at this Covidiot. Have you looked like a Covidiot today? Are you currently watching the video looking like a Covidiot wearing a mask without experiencing any symptoms? I've been trying to avoid any place that forces me to wear a mask. What a bunch of crap. Here's a woman screeching about social distancing. And this is my favorite TikTok video of the day. By the way, TikTok is, if you didn't know, made in China. Before I get to that, let's go back to the chat. And thanks everybody for leaving up comments. Yes. Do I remember Pokemon Denab? Indeed I don't. The bar can be full of politicians? Yes. Social disease of the mind? Yes. It's a pandemic of propaganda. Yes, drinking while wearing a mask. It's quite brilliant. People are super smart. Like this woman here who's carrying a tape measure around, trying to Karen people. Hi, Karen.
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
You're ruining it from everyone. You're ruining it for everyone. So I'm wandering around with a tape measure to make sure that everybody is protected from the scary, spooky COVID virus. Oh my God, it's freaking me out. I'm so frightened. I'm so frightened. She's getting carried away, like literally carried away. Yowzers. By the way, I'm not running TikTok. And if you'd like to watch Paul Joseph Watson's latest video about Karens, well, here's a clip. It's always
Friday at the Norton
always fantastic. Have you noticed a bunch of NPCs telling you to do things that make no sense?
Rules to you in an imperious, condescending tone.
Anyway, check out Paul Joseph Watson if you haven't. He doesn't need your help. He has millions of subscribers on YouTube. And we can't even reach 1,700. Anyway, congratulations on surviving a global pandemic so far. Please leave a comment if you're very, very scared and spooked and frightened, and you believe all the media propaganda, and just ignore the mortality rate, which has dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped, as I said it would back in January and February and March and April and May and June. And now the numbers are reaching exactly what I forecasted back then. If you didn't check it out, well, go to smAshomash.com/forum, go to the free-for-all forum, and find all the information. There are over 30 pages creating a timeline of this nonsensical scamdemic. Have you noticed an infantile response by mankind? Well, we have, which is why we've created the prototype shirt, advertising smAshomash.org. Smash your price, my first pandemic. What a pathetic, infantile, anti-science, nonsense-based approach on dealing with a virus with a mortality rate lower than 0.05% overall. By the way, we are streaming live to Twitch. If you haven't checked us out there, it's twitch.tv/smAshomash if you want the information immediately as it comes out, as some of our viewers apparently have decided to. We're also on YouTube, and we upload the videos later. Thanks for everybody tuning into the live premiere, etc. And thanks to our BitChute subscribers as well. We do put exclusive content in all locations, although we haven't been doing it much lately, because I am massively overworked and underpaid. If you'd like to reach me for any sort of breaking news or anything like that, please feel free to call or text at the smAsho VoIP line. The number's country code 1, area code 610-936-9799. That's 1-610-936-9799. The smAsho VoIP line. We invite you all to call, text, etc. Thanks to our patrons for being the real source of funding for the content, as YouTube strives to pay us absolutely nothing via its scamware, Google AdSense nonsense, burying us in search algorithms and so on. What a bunch of crap. Thanks to our real support from patrons. There will be a credit crawl coming soon once we actually get around to it. Please tell your friends and foes to help fund us as well, and increase the likelihood that these videos will continue to exist, be free, and be publicly visible. We're also on Subscribestar and in other places. Visit the links below the video to check out all of that stuff. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of Smashlights, where we talk about whatever we want. And now let's move on to some more stuff. And thanks again for leaving comments, Kimberly and Be Stoic. Let's get back to data. Go's magnetometer's looking pretty spiky here. And as I forecasted yesterday, I believe we are back into the North Pole current sheet, and that is all associated with that rising sunspot. So expect to see some major changes in the next 24 hours with all the fields, including the B field. We'll show you that in a minute. And here you can see that North Pole polarity creeping in. And once again, I've forecasted the magnetic environment. Have you seen any other space weather forecasters doing that? What's that? Because there are none? Yeah, we noticed. Did you notice suspicious observers missing the coronal mass ejection entirely? Well, that's because, hey, Ben, you can't see coronal mass ejections if you don't look for them. Now, Ben stated that a great way to look stupid is to argue with the great illustrious Ben Davidson online, which was hilarious, because I will argue with anybody who's wrong. I don't care if you're Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, or the ghost of Liberace. If you're incorrect, I will call you on your nonsense. Deal with it. This data is 2 hours and 14 minutes old. Keep in mind it can suddenly change. Now you are going to see the B field be pulled down a little bit here, and that has to do with that rising sunspot. Look for this to be pulled even more, and that's what's going to put us in the North Pole current sheet. This is the line of sight field plot, also part of the Gong 2, part of the National Sunspot Observatory, which uses 51 ground-based magnetometers, as well as magnetometers on stereo A and stereo B to develop this model. Electron flux is at more normal, moderate levels here. And here's the total electron content forecast in visual graphic form, showing you the whole air column and where we would expect to see GPS errors and satellite drag. We're at a fairly normal range here. Nothing too exciting to really talk about except the standard nighttime anomalies over Mexico, the Caribbean, and South Pacific off of Baja, California. Here's the 3-day GOES electron flux data. And it's pretty normal here. Wouldn't be surprised to see this get into alert thresholds once again, as we've been seeing a huge increase in the electrons after seeing this lengthy period of time for a couple of months where it was just flatlined. very anomalously flatline. But the electrons are back, and for that we thank you. Now we're going to look at just one layer of the atmosphere, the ionosphere. And by the way, this is the ceiling for the Schumann resonances. This is the part of the atmosphere where the Schumann resonances bounce back down. And they're created by radio waves from this region bouncing around into these other portions of the planet, creating harmonics just like on a guitar string. And they are the result of energy hitting the Earth, not the energy itself. They have very little to do with anything other than the fact that they are novel and they were predicted, and indeed there's radio frequencies bouncing around in between the lithosphere and atmosphere. No real surprise there. Anyway, this is 6 hours of data. It's looking a little bit normal, more normal than it's been, although highly discharged. One of the most discharged we've ever seen it on the sun side, making it only to 7 megahertz there. A little more normal on the nighttime side. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. And happy new moon, my favorite phase. There's where things will be in a week. And we'll see if I start to get fined again by scumbag, scum-sucking, bottom-feeding bureaucrats whose jobs shouldn't even exist. Next, looking at what's going on above my head. If you get up before dawn, you should see a huge pile-up where you'll see Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter all at the same time. Venus reaching a magnitude of negative 4.4, the third brightest object in the entire sky. Next, looking at weather.gov, and we're going to cover some climate change stuff in a minute. Here's the current heat advisories, mostly excessive heat warnings and so on. Let's talk about the South Atlantic anomaly. Turns out it's been anomalous 8 to 11 million years ago, according to volcanic rock analysis located at St. Helena. St. Helena? Anyway, 8 to 11 million years ago, the South Atlantic anomaly was still anomalous. Who knew? It's a recurring feature, and it's likely to represent an impending reversal. It's unlikely to represent an impending reversal of the Earth's magnetic field. It's characterized by a significant reduction, the South Atlantic anomaly is, a significant reduction in the strength of Earth's magnetic field compared with areas at similar geographic latitudes. That's right. It's an area where energy from space behaves differently while reaching the Earth. The study supports earlier studies that hint toward a link between the South Atlantic anomaly and anomalous seismic features in the lowermost mantle and the outer core. Two features that are utterly not understood, nor is Earth's geomagnetism, at least not by the mainstream. And we've got some theories, and we keep having ideas for more scientific papers. It could happen, and we're going to possibly change the way geomagnetism is understood, period. Check out this article, if you like, about the South Atlantic anomaly. This one's on SciTech Daily. It's all over the Science Wire. If you're wondering where St. Helena is, it's kind of in the middle of the South Atlantic. Here's a zoom out to its location. This is where the igneous rocks were sampled to check on the magnetic field. Of course, carbon dating and so on was used to date the igneous rocks. Speaking of igneous rocks, let's talk about volcanoes. Mount Abico's erupting, flight level 10,000 there. Dacono's erupting as it explodes, flight level 8,000 there. Yasur back on the list with no evidence of further eruption. Please don't build a campsite at the base of the volcano. It can still kill you. Fuego's exploding, flight level 15,000. Sangay is exploding, flight level 20,000. Revenador is exploding, flight level 15,000. Sabancaya is exploding, flight level 24,000. Please do not attempt to do the Fosbury flop, which is what we use to do the high jump over the caldera down there in Peru of Sabancaya, as it could prove unhealthful. Next, looking at the last 24 hours of earthquakes, we don't see anything over a 6 magnitude, apparently. We do see a deep quake here at Vanuatu at a 4.6 magnitude and 113 kilometers. And then only about 25 minutes later, we see a 4.7 located south of that at 157 kilometers and a 4.7 magnitude. Let's scroll up the list. A deep quake at Argentina. A little swarm of quakes there. And And then only 4 minutes later, another deep quake at Vanuatu. So a bit of a swarm of deep quakes here coming off, folks. If you're in an earthquake-prone zone, please have an earthquake plan, as there are solar protons on the way. And we've now figured out that apparently within 24 hours of the solar protonic strike, major earthquake can be induced, and we're talking about 5+ magnitudes. Here's another deep one at Argentina. So that's another reason to watch the solar wind, folks, and to watch geomagnetism, as if it's induced by solar protons, it could be the predecessor to a large earthquake. Indications of where they'll happen are these deep quakes. This is a 4.3 at 123 kilometers. My favorite place for major quakes would be in this region here and these regions here, as those are the main locations for deep quakes over the past years that we've been doing these videos. Here's another deep quake strike in Peru. So those could be foreshocks, folks. Let's hope not, although it's not that populated in that region. And so there's 2 more deep quakes. So a significant swarm of deep quakes in South America. Again, have an earthquake plan. Plan to be an asset, not a liability in the event of a disaster. Have a bug-out bag. Know which building facades may crumble if you try to evacuate yours. Let's talk about cosmic rays. What's the significance of cosmic rays? Well, apparently people were not aware as late as 1995 when Svenmark did a paper about how cosmic rays cause cloud nucleation. And that's right, a distant star could turn on and cause the planet to cloud up for thousands of years. Let's talk about climate change and how it's not understood at all. And here's another example of a stupid model tracking stuff that has nothing to do with reality. Climate change could wipe out polar bears by 2100. And what this would require would be for the fasting behaviors of polar bears to be exactly the same. By the way, when it gets too cold for polar bears, they're unable to get through ice to their favorite food, seals, which makes this total nonsense. When it gets too cold, and we've had record snow the last 3 winters in a row in the northern hemisphere, polar bears do this. They head down to towns and they go garbage picking because they can't get to their favorite food through the frozen ice caps. The whole study has to do with temperature increasing 2.4 degrees Celsius over the next 80 years, and this having a direct proportional effect on the fasting times of polar bears, and that's what the article is about. It's complete nonsense. It's just more silliness. Listen to this alarmism. Think of it this way. If I were to push you off of a roof of a 100-story building, would your risk level be vulnerable until you pass by the 10th floor? Or would it be endangered all the way down? Wow, what an alarmist. Congratulations, Amstrop. You sound like a full-fledged Covidiot. Let's talk about geoengineering. How about some sulfuric acid clouds high up in the atmosphere? Would you like that? Well, somebody's proposing it. It's the main writer of the paper is Lily Jia, a Slutgers research scientist. Slutgers University, the most promiscuous college in the U.S. Slutgers University, yes, doing some geoengineering papers. It's a solution to fight climate change, but not by itself. All we got to do is build these giant towers that emit sulfur dioxide and these balloons that emit sulfur dioxide, and also fire rockets, and then build some planes that can actually drop sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere at stratospheric levels. And it's great. We'll just reduce solar radiation. What could possibly go wrong? Geoengineering, the dumbest idea possibly in the history of mankind. It's almost as dumb as no-knock warrants. What say you? So, please inform your local politician, your national politician, your presidential politician, any politician, that you don't want any geoengineering whatsoever. Let's create massive sulfuric acid clouds that could limit global warming and help meet the 2015 Paris International Climate Goals while reducing unintended impacts. Gee, what possibly could go wrong with creating sulfuric acid clouds in the upper atmosphere? Let's reflect on how stupid of an idea that is, and then let's move on to look at some more data. Lightningmaps.org is a good one. Lightningmaps.org, otherwise blitzortung.org if you're German. Shout out to our German viewers such as Sugas Shenanigans. Cheers. To all of our international viewers, thanks for tuning in, wherever you're from. Please leave us a comment if you haven't done so. Kansas City's getting struck. Hey, Kansas City. Hey, Topeka. There's thunder rolling in. Next time you hear some thunder, check out lightningmaps.org and leave us a comment if you've done so, as we'd be interested to hear your lightning forecasting stories. Have you convinced somebody that you were Thor or Odin? Let us know in the comments below the video. And let's just get back to the chat here for a minute. By the way, there is geoengineering going on the planet, folks. It's done on small scales, not large scales. It's not done by passenger aircraft or any commercial aircraft. It's only done in very small scales at places like ski resorts. Bulgaria has been firing rockets at thunderstorms to prevent hailstorms from hitting their crops and things. And there's been some tests using balloons. So next time you see a contrail coming from a plane, please get your head out of your you-know-what and understand the difference between your you-know-what and a hole in the ground. Planes are not equipped to do stratospheric injection. Planes don't fly at the stratosphere level, and they certainly don't do it with a cargo bay full of geoengineering chemicals. That's not a thing. When you look at a map with a 2-kilometer resolution, don't assume that you're looking at intentionally produced chemtrails for geoengineering purposes. That ain't the way it works. Next, we're looking at pressure cells here on windy.com, and it looks to me from the water vapor map that the Anderson-Cooper anticyclone here off the coast of California is breaking up. Oh my God, it's breaking up. Let's advance this in the GFS forecast and move on before the video gets too long and I get too angry about covering so many nonsensical things. Here's where we expect things to be at 12 noon tomorrow, based on the GFS forecast. Windy.com, they've got a great mobile app. Here's nullschool.net's jet streams. Very concentrated jets in the south, very incoherent jets in the north. Here's the western world. Now that we've shown you the eastern world, same deal. We've got some jet stream blowing backwards here over the North Atlantic. And if you see high-level winds at flight level 25,000 blowing east to west, that's abnormal. Next, looking at water vapor maps for Europe and Africa. It's a value-added service. Water vapor maps for the Far East and Oceania. Water vapor maps for the Western world, the Americas. And you can see this is getting a little less coherent here. The Anderson-Cooper anticyclone. Anderson-Cooper, reporter, an ultra-rich Vanderbilt grandson, or whatever he is, from the Climate Nonsense Network, otherwise known as the Communist News Network, CNN. Next, we're looking at the cloud layers here over places like Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, and Iowa. And we see some rather rapid cloud nucleation happening there, as well as some waves where we've got an upper level low passing over a lower level series of low clouds and causing some atmospheric issues there over that area. And there's what's going on the Doppler radar map. Heavy storms over a large portion of the central U.S., as well as the Gulf Coast there south of Louisiana and Texas. Next, looking at water vapor maps for the U.S., which will give you a better idea of how those storms are going to move. And if anybody would ever like us to do custom meteorology videos, just leave us a comment, and we'll always consider it. And we are going to zoom in on that region. First, let's get back to the chat. Yeah, sulfur towers to prevent climate change. What an idiotic, moronic, mentally handicapped idea. And we'll zoom in on Nebraska here, just to show you what's going on. Actually, that was Kansas, I think. I clicked on Kansas. I apologize. My geography has good days and bad. So you can see a massive pressure gradient being created here. You've got dry air here and dry air here, creating this compression zone, which is holding all that moisture in those bands. And if you're flying an aircraft across here, expect some major turbulence, to say the least, as nitrogen is more massive than water, which is why dry air is more massive and more viscous than moist air. If you didn't know, we're more than happy to inform you. Thanks for tuning in to Tales from the Smash Side, which is just like the real world, only darker. Just kidding, it's not really darker. And thanks for flying, American Smashways. Allow me to vanish. Please keep your head and arms inside the smash plane at all times, as we've got bonus features, such as this first view of the sunspot. There you go. It's going to be 2767 if I remember correctly, and you can see a large umbra already visible. Let's check out the fields. Here's the latest refresh, ultra high res image, and there you go. You can see its leading south pole polarity here, an indication that it is cycle 25 all day, a cycle that we've been in since November. Let's give you one more view here. How about the 94 angstroms view, which will give you a great view of that little A-class X-ray flare. You'll see a little bit of brightening over that portion of the limb. We've got to get going, as this video was a little longer than we intended. Again, thanks everybody for tuning in. Please don't forget to share the content on your social media. Tell your friends, tell your foes, tell science noobs, and tell science pros. A lot of things are changing when it comes to physics and astrophysics, as it's all getting rewritten, folks. We have a great sprite right here that shows up, and we often see these in 94 angstroms. You'll see that right where the arrow is in a minute when this repeats, and there you can see that active region rising. There was that little flare right at the very end of the video. And you should see this little sprite here, this little 94 angstroms. Looks like a comet. It's just violent behavior around the local environment, around the sun. And you can kind of see that there. Don't worry about it. It's nothing to write home about, folks. We are out. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive it, since it'll never be now again. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Tell your friends, tell your foes to get their heads out of their... Tell them to get their heads out of their you-know-what. Check out our playlists on YouTube. Please consider supporting our operations, as we are tanking and not meeting our goals. And every day we consider taking down all of the content and making it all private for only those who pay. So see you next time. And may that solar wind be at your back.